Andrew Montford joins us. He's the director of Net Zero Watch. Very, very good afternoon to you, Andrew.
Good afternoon, Julia.
It's already bad enough how much children are being ideologically indoctrinated right now about climate change in our schools. And by the way, the parents who think they're not, they just ain't been paying attention, because this stuff is just taught as with religious zealotry in schools. But now we're told we can use it to teach about race, because climate change is not only bad for the planet and definitely something we should bankrupt ourselves to deal with, but it's also racist.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely bonkers, isn't it? But I mean, you're quite right. This has been going on for many, many years, and climate change it's everywhere in the curriculum. It's in every single subject. I did a paper on this probably 10 years ago. And you could find climate change education going on in French lessons, in home economics lessons, in history lessons, in economic lessons. Absolutely crazy stuff. So, I mean, to add, the race angle to it is just, it's more of the same insanity.
I'm almost impressed. Well played. You've managed to get race into it. But I see it come up in broadcasting a lot on BBC and others, where they talk about, of course, the impact on climate change in developing, not allowed to say first and third world anymore, are we? I'm sure that's not allowed. But developing nations, yeah, absolutely. Developing nations, because they're the ones who are going to be the hardest hit. Bangladesh, apparently, no one knew about this before. Apparently, Bangladesh, being underwater, apparently is all to do with climate change. Half a year, it has always been. 'Twas ever thus, but nevertheless. And every single phenomenon that is either, anywhere related to natural disasters is always instantly attributed to climate change, even when there's simply no evidence of it whatsoever. And when you've got people like the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, I mean, openly stating, mad, hysterical Greta Thunberg type stuff about, the world is burning and we're all going to die and drowning, burning. It alternates different weeks. But often using an example the other day of a country where this home has been destroyed by climate change because the water levels are rising, and it was nothing to do with that. It was to do with an earthquake.
Yeah, I mean, these stories do the rounds, don't they? But they usually turn out to be nonsense. I mean, you mentioned Bangladesh. Bangladesh has been doing extremely well by just ignoring the climate change hype. They're drilling gas wells in the Bay of Bengal just as fast as they can. They've protected themselves from sea level rise because they've built seawalls, and all the cropland now is behind seawalls.
What a brilliant idea!
Yeah, absolutely brilliant idea. I mean, it's very simple, really. Just adapt. It's easy and it's cheap. It's only in the sort of, if you like, the corrupt and decadent West where we go on with this crazy hysteria. And at the end of the day, I think it probably is left-wing activists using it as a tool
always
to get at people. So
yeah. But again, what I've always thought was so immoral. I think it's insane and immoral to impoverish our nation after we led the Industrial Revolution by turning back the clock on that, to ignore the fossil fuels that made us so rich and developed well. I think it's beyond evil. It's totally immoral for us to try and encourage developing nations who desperately need to industrialise, desperately need to reliable, cheap fossil fuels to industrialise, to actually help build their nations, to build the factories, to provide the jobs, to provide the reliable electricity and build the roads and do all the stuff that we just accept as a norm. And those countries, those people don't have. We're basically saying we'd expect the third world to stay the third world and impoverish themselves so we can feel good about ourselves when we're walking around with our Hessian bag and drinking our chai latte. I mean, it is immoral to do that.
I absolutely agree. It is immoral, but of course the people who want to get at our children in our schools and turn them into little sort of socialist activists don't actually really care about the morality of the thing.
No.
They're interested in political power, and if that involves trying to indoctrinate our children, they'll do it. And they don't actually really care about the third world. They only care about the third world to the extent that it's a tool to let them deliver power.
Yeah.
I think we really should be calling out these people and just saying, you actually don't care about the third world. The third world will do very well if they get fossil fuels and they get wealthy, and you're trying to stop that. That's
absolutely. And again, another stick to beat. People over say, well, it's all about racism. It's all about racism fundamentally. Andrew Montford, director of Net Zero Watch, always so good to talk to you. A voice of reason. Philip Ingram.